You're still watching the program this morning on my TV. It's now time for our second discussion. This time around, we shall be looking at education. Of course, we all understand that education is key to national development, but where there are issues with the educational system, you tend not to have confidence of what leaders who tend to turn out how they're going to be in future. Just of recent, we know Nigeria has adopted technology in terms of examinations for those who are looking for admissions into tertiary institutions. One body who most of us may have gone through is the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, Jamb. Recently, like I said, introduced technology for those who are looking for admission that have to go through tests with the examination done online. But something happened a few days ago where there was a failed attempt, or rather the mock exam that was supposed to be conducted by Jamb failed due to the technology we're talking about. So this morning I have experts in the studio with me to share more light on ICT when it comes to our educational sector. I have Mr. Shego Olariwaju. He is a Microsoft certified innovative education and edutech experts from my far right. Very good morning to you, Mr. Shego.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Also, Mr. Azuka Opute is also an ICT expert who is here very close to my right here. Very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Now, let me start with you, Shego. Let's look at the Jamb process from the beginning. Why do you think we had to migrate from what it used to be, the manual form of writing exams, to this form? Why do you think Jamb had to migrate this early if we've not really gotten it right with our technology?
Actually, this idea of innovation is actually long overdue. Going by the fact that initially we're using the paper model where you see questions, you share and all that. And then there were a lot of flops. There were impersonation, there were issues of candidates not having access to their result on time and all that. So the idea of ICT was to kind of bring innovation to the system, and that's where I think about 6 years ago Jamb started the idea of mock. The idea behind mock exam is to provide candidates with hands-on experience on the CBT learning environment, and also so that Jamb can also get feedbacks as well as their partners. So I think basically the idea of technology is a welcome development, even though there are hitches and there. We've had developed countries adopting this model. You understand what I'm saying? So the paper model is actually out of it. We are supposed to be innovating. We are supposed to be moving from one level of innovation to another. So I feel that we needed to move, but we are not getting it right.
All right, let me come to you, Azuka. I agree with him. We have to move forward. But when you say we have not gotten it right, what area of technology are we operating as it stands now, compared to the other part of the world? Have we not gotten it right, as he said?
Yes, I would like to say it's not like we have gotten it right by adopting technology. Okay. So we'll give Jamb kudos to that. But we have not completely gotten it right by integrating technology into the examination. And there is a whole lot of gaps in between, if you look at it. And one of the gaps is what we saw in the recent mock examinations that just take place. If you look at the centers that we have, there were a whole lot of pushback, setbacks. And one of them is that we've not gotten right is the systems that we want to use to achieve what we want to achieve. I'll give you an example. The laptops in some of the centers are practically outdated. So you don't want to use a Pentium laptop in 2023 to run a mock exam. That technology is an outdated technology. We already have laptops of 7th generation, 8th generation, 9th generation, and so on. So using a Pentium 3 or Core Dual computers to run it. So I think those are the things that Jamb has not gotten right. They have their requirement that they use, but they still have to look into it. One of them is the laptops that and the computers that they use to get it right. So I think those are the few gaps. And if you look at it, like he said, the exam is long overdue. Going into CBT, computer-based, is long overdue. It's not can you get it done, it's how fast can you get it done. That's where we are right now. So the computers can get it done, but how fast can they get it done? That is what we are right now with Jamb.
So when you look at the service providers for this internet, like the technology we're talking about now, going back to what happened at the last mock exam, you mentioned system failure due to their present state. We are using outdated system and all that. But do we really, as a country, can say we have maybe internet facility that we can really hold on to when we want to introduce technologies like this?
I would say we do.
Okay.
We do, but are we making use of it properly is what you will ask. Take for instance, if I alone subscribe to a router, maybe it has a bandwidth of say 10 Mbps or thereabouts, and I'm using one device on it, the speed will be massive. But the moment you connect 20 devices to that same router, the bandwidth is shrinked, the speed drops. So it's not the network providers now that I think is the issue. The issue now is how are they using the network providers? When you are logged in 50 computers, 100 computers on one router, there is no way you will not have decline in speed. The bandwidth is already shrinked.
All right, let's look at the students involved. How well are they informed of this technology that you think Jamb has introduced? Because, for instance, those who stay in rural areas who do not have access to these things we're talking about may have to wait until the exam time or the exam period. Although I know the mock exam is to test run, like you said. What happened to students who don't have access to this? What is the effect on them? Do we have Nigerian students who are really ready to embrace this system?
Actually, to start with, one, like you said, one of the essence of the mock is to expose students in rural areas and those who don't have access to computer systems to familiarize themselves with the computer-based test interface and to possibly get feedbacks on the areas they need to improve on. But be that as it may, over time, the Jamb itself, I think that they are probably getting something wrong, because even some of these rural areas, they don't have access to computer systems. I was having a conversation with someone from a very remote village who said that in their school, to teach computer, their teachers draw something like mouse and everything, because they don't have access to, even they don't even
to real life
experience and all that. For me, I think that what we could have done is to at least make provisions for the ones that we already made available, the mock. We should ensure that it's working. Number two, the idea of having systems that are not working is going to cause a setback. I give an instance of the mock that took place on the 30th of March. That was last week. It was initially scheduled for 16th of March. But Jamb gave an explanation that due to the gubernatorial and state house assembly election, they needed to postpone it. And the only opportunity these students from rural area have access to, they were emotionally downcast, and they do not have access. A 7A exam that was supposed to take place took place around 3:45, I'm correct. You get what I'm saying? These are issues that will further bring more problem to the system. And I do know that for students in rural areas, there are some collaborations with private individuals that make apps and softwares that the student can use to practice on their own. That's different from the mock. It's almost have the same interface with the main Jamb. You understand? It's just that access to, they are going to pay for the access. You get what I'm saying? When you look at all these processes, you begin to look at the fact that even very brilliant students in remote areas, they may likely have problems. So I feel that we are kind of leaving out some certain set of people in our planning. So I think we should really work
right. We know we don't have a Jamb here to probably give us their own side, because we are not here to criticize anything. Because Jamb has done well. If you look at the past exams they've conducted, I've not really had this. But how do we begin to get these things working in our rural areas? Because you cannot exclude those children in the rural area once it comes to technology. You come to the city here, you see a 3-year-old child operates an Android phone, and you'll be marveled at what they can do with systems these days. But how do we begin to get these things channeled down to the rural area? Because that is where we have the greatest challenge.
Okay, sir. So you look at it, we also have the challenges in the cities, even compared to the urban areas, like because the remote areas are more. We need to first of all even get it right here, 100%. But at the same time, if you look at it critically, you see one thing with Nigeria bodies, especially government bodies, is we are not 100% ready, or we don't do our research properly before we jump into things. Now, to get it right is not something difficult. It's not something difficult. One of the things Jamb needs to do is to be ready to fund this thing. One of the issues we have is that if you look at Jamb centers, to set up a Jamb CBT center is expensive. And it's more or less like it is left 100% for the private owners of that center to cater for everything. So it's not easy to do. That's
but
why
we have universities that have hubs where people...
Yes, they do. That's what, so if you look at those universities that have hubs, the maintenance culture of those facilities are not there. Those are the things that Jamb should maybe set a budget for. I don't know if they do, and support, especially in the remote areas. Take for instance, I said something of getting laptops, for instance. To get a good laptop now should cost you nothing less than 300,000. That can work fine for Jamb. If you want to leave that to maybe universities to do, how many universities have those hubs to get you 250, 500 computers at that figure? You get it? And even if they get it, within the next 3-5 years, those computers are looking outdated. They need either replacement or they need to be upgraded. So Jamb should find a way to see, these service centers, how can they collaborate more and support them more? That is one of the fastest way they can do it. And if you go to the remote areas also, look for private SMEs or private bodies that you can collaborate with. If it is to fund them, then maybe over the years you know how to get your return back from them and make it a smooth transition. But you can't just leave it and say, they should go to the remote areas and just get it right. It's not going to be easy. So I think it has to do a whole lot with funding per se. If you want to go to the remote areas, setting up those, getting generator now, a mechanical generator that can power 100 computers. We know what the figure is right now. Getting diesel, we know what the figure is right now. Getting a LAN network connection, topographic stuff that they use, we know what it is right now. So if you want to do that in remote areas, and look at it in remote areas, after the Jamb, it's almost not useful until the next Jamb, because of the way the remote areas are designed. They don't go to the cafe, they don't browse, they only mostly on farms and all that because of the way it is designed. So if a private investor invests that, how long will it take him to get his return? So I think Jamb should look for a way to collaborate more and fund.
I don't know if Cheryl shares your thought, but you have a different opinion.
To make this thing work, talking about because we're actually talking about the mock in preparation for the main exam.
Yes.
To make it work, I think that Jamb should be more alive to their responsibilities, because if the mock flops, the students are going to lose confidence in the system. So somewhere Jamb already gave a release. They said that the flop was due to an introduction of a new software which they are testing. So for me, I believe that when you are testing a new software, there's also the need to do a micro pilot test before the general scale up. Because as much as the pilot test is good, there's also the perception to it. If the pilot test fails, the candidate will believe that the main jam will fail. So there's need for a micro test of the software, and I want to also say.
But I think they said it's not some centers, not everywhere.
Actually, if you look at the internet, I covered some centers. Let me give you a breakdown of it. An exam that was supposed to start 7 a.m. There is no center in Nigeria that started 7 a.m. The 7 exam in most part of the country started some 3:45 p.m., some 2 p.m. You understand what I'm saying? Because they were not connecting, these CBT centers were not connecting to Jamb main centers. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for any introduction of new software, which Jamb said was the reason, there should be a pilot test. And I want to also say that anybody that is bidding for any contracts should have proven track records. It should not just be someone that I'm not saying Jamb is politicizing it, but I'm only saying that we should get competent ends in the deploy of our softwares. And to also solve the problem, I would want to say that Jamb should also, as a matter of fact, rate CBT centers. He was talking about slow laptop lag, router and all that. At the end of every exercise, the students should also assess CBT centers. There should be maybe a KPI for Jamb centers. If at the end of the day, the students are rating Jamb centers low, they should probably be delisted, or Jamb should find a way to improve their capacity to deliver. So there should be incentives for these CBT centers that are doing well. With that, we are going to get the system right. And also, I believe that for these CBT centers, for me, I think that Jamb also should probably give maybe a 3 years validity for their Jamb results.
So now, how do you now assess a CBT center that is ready for such an examination? Looking at what you just said.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. The student, they have 2 hours for the exam. At the end of the exam, there should be a pop-up question, maybe 2 frame questions for the student to answer. Maybe your experience about the Jamb that you've just done. You understand? That will send a feedback to Jamb. You understand what I'm saying? It will help them to know those that are working and those that are not working. And I want to also say that the overboarding, or I think there's too much stress on the system. So maybe Jamb could give maybe a 3 years validity to their results, so that it will reduce the number of people that are writing Jamb yearly. In 2011, there are about 1.9 students that registered for the main Jamb. In 2020, 1.9 million students registered for the UTME. 2021, 1.4 thereabouts. 2022, 1.8 people registered for UTME. This current year, about 1.4 million people registered for UTME. So once this same student will be tested again for post-UTME. So I feel that we are testing the student too much. Even SAT, the acclaimed SAT exam, SAT, has maybe in some institution 5 years validity. So if we should reduce the number of people doing Jamb, is going to reduce the stress, the load on our system. I believe it's going to help.
Well, from what you're saying, I just remember that we had cases where students write Jambs and probably you have to wait a year before you gain admission, especially when we have strikes and all that, and it's also affecting the numbers of people who are applying for admissions into Nigerian universities, because they have to go through these processes you mentioned. But as we round up this segment, what will be your last call to Jamb and the students, especially even their parents, because there was a time we had parents who visit these CBT centers complain bitterly about the process. But maybe as a way of running up these programs.
Yes, our all of us go to the parents. I would say they should please be calm and exercise patient. It's not easy as a parent taking your child to an examination center at 7 a.m. Some had to travel out of their state, risking their own lives, spending much. And at the end of the day, you still can't even write the exams. And at the end of the day, you still have to wait till 7 p.m., 3 p.m. before you could write the exam. So the parents should just please exercise patience. And for Jamb, I think
Jamb really needs to step up. Jamb really needs to step up. This problem or this challenge that we are complaining in 2023, it's almost the same thing we complained in 2016. Almost the same thing we complained in 2021. It's like every year there is one technical hitch or the other. They should sit down, find a permanent solution and resolve this issue. Because at the end of the day, if it continues like this and the student begins to lose trust in the process, it automatically affects the performance of the students during the examination. I cannot be writing an examination and the system just goes off 2-3 times in the space of 2 hours. And you expect me to still be psychologically balanced. For Christ's sake, these are children, these are teenagers. Their emotional
intelligence is not like people that have gone through it all in life, that even no matter what comes their way, they are still strong. Once a teenager has TV system shut down in the space of 2 hours, irrespective of what they've read, they become destabilized automatically, and that could still affect the output of their exams. So I think Jamb should come, take responsibility, go to their service centers, do proper screening for their service centers, and be sure that their computers are up to date, be sure that their softwares are up to date, be sure that their internet facility are also up to date. If they can just do these simple things, I tell you, IT is not rocket science.
All right, I must thank you so much, guys, for coming on the program this morning. Mr. Shogo Olariwaju is a certified Microsoft edutech expert, yes, and I have also Azuka Oputa, an ICT expert. We are just looking at the failed mock exam by Jamb due to failure in their technology. The last mock exam was organized a few days ago. Thank you again for being on the program.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break, and when we return, the program this morning on ITV continues.